please. Help me, she breathed, words barely hanging on the wind. Cal Vance stood stone still, one hand on the stock of his old Winchester, eyes locked on the battered shape clinging to his fence, as if it were the last strong thing left in the world. Not today, he said low, and the red dirt went still. The moon hung like a worn silver dollar over Juniper Flats. The windmill ticked a lazy count above the yard, and the house held its breath the way an old horse does before a storm. Cal Vance stood in the doorway with his rifle easy in his hands, boots planted where the porch boards knew him. Then she hit the fence, bare feet, torn dress, skin purpled in places where a man's hand had been. She clutched a fence post like it was the only solid thing left in the world, and tried to pull air into a chest that had forgotten how. For a heartbeat, she stared at Cal, the way folks stare at water after a long, dry ride. Her lips worked. No sound. 3 riders slid out of the dark behind her, not hurrying, men who believed there was no reason to. The one in front was Lyle McKendry, a rangy hand with a hawk nose and a mouth that never learned a decent word. His hat rode low, his carbine hung easy. The other 2 spaced out wide like they'd done this before. "Turn around," Cal called. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Lyle eased a grin. "Old man, she's freight. We're taking what belongs." Cal put a shot into the fence post 6 inches from Lyle's knee. The post jumped. Wood chips stung the gelding's chest. Horses danced. The second shot took Lyle high on the shoulder and knocked him clean off the saddle. He hit hard and rolled, cussing wet. The other 2 threw their mounts wide and set to firing blind, scared hands making foolish thunder. Cal stepped to the porch rail and let them hear the truth in the hollow of that yard. He didn't waste ammo. 2 measured cracks, and both men decided the night had other places to be. They hauled Lyle up by his good arm and lit out, a crooked comet of hooves and fear trailing north along the wash. The yard went quiet again. The windmill ticked. Gun oil hung sharp in the air. Cal could feel his heart in the web of his fingers where the stock had pressed, and a hot ache ran his forearm. He hadn't shot at a man in 12 years. He crossed the yard. The girl tried to stand and couldn't. He set the rifle in the crook of his arm and lifted her easy as he could manage. She was light in a way that said she hadn't eaten right in a spell. Her ankle had ballooned ugly. Her breath came shallow and quick. "Water," he said, and she nodded without looking at him. Inside, he laid her on the couch that sagged in the middle and brought the tin cup. She drank like it hurt. He draped a wool blanket over her and caught a whiff of dust and fear and long road. Her eyes tracked the room like something might jump out of the dark corners. "It's all right," Cal said. "House is locked." She tried to speak, but the words stuck. Whatever had chased her still had its hand around her throat. He set the cup on the crate he used for a table and glanced toward the door. On the jamb, a short chain of wooden beads hung from a nail, the last letter carved with a careful hand, R. It moved a little in the draft and clicked once, soft as memory. Rosie. Cal let the name rise and fall without sound. 12 years is a long time to be quiet, but some silences are chosen and some are laid on you. He had worn both. On the porch again, he checked the horizon the way a man checks his own pockets, counted stars without seeing them, and listened for hooves that didn't come. The night breathed, the mill ticked, and the world settled back on its haunches. "Not today," he whispered into the dark, and the door to yesterday cracked open just enough to let the past look in. "Drink, kid. Water first. Talk after." She took the tin cup with both hands, knuckles white, and sipped like her mouth had forgot the trick. Cal set a folded quilt behind her shoulders and checked the ankle. Swollen mean, skin hot and tight. He cut a strip from an old shirt and bound it neat, the way a rail hand ties a line when the wind's up. On the shelf sat a scrap of paper in a woman's clear hand. "Lucy Parrish, M.D. Figure 8 wrap. Keep weight off. Laudanum only if shock. He'd kept the note tucked by the coffee tin since winter. He read it like a prayer and did every line slow, steady. The room held the plain smell of lye soap and wood smoke. Outside, a coyote spoke once and gave it up. Cal dabbed her split lip with warm water and set the cup back down. She watched the window as if the night could reach through the glass. "No one's coming through that door," he said. Her voice came out thin. Don't open the curtains. Won't." She shut her eyes as if that was the only door she could still close. Words found their way out, scuffed and low. "They own me," she said. "They own all of us." Cal felt the floor tilt under him, not the boards, but the kind of tilt a man gets when an old thought climbs out of its hole. He let the talk pass and checked the bandage again. Work first. Talk when the hands are clean. He fetched a wool blanket and shook it once. A dented harmonica slid from the fold, tapped the floor, and spun to a stop. He picked it up, thumbed the bent reed. Last tune it played was A Summer Night 12 Years Gone. He set it on the crate, face down like a coin that wouldn't be spent again. "Name's Cal Vance," he said. "You can rest here. House is locked." She nodded, eyes still on the window. "May," she whispered. "Just May." "All right, May, you're safe enough for now." Her breath eased. Sleep came in short, nervous steps. Not sure it was welcome. He settled a second blanket over her and set the rifle within reach. The lamp turned the room a worn honey color, and the shadows kept quiet for once. Down at the fence line, far from the lamplight, a rider eased out of the wash and dismounted. He hooded his lantern with his palm, crouched, and worked a brass casing from the dust. Tate Sutter. Narrow shoulders, careful hands. He turned the shell against the light, saw the small nick on the rim, and smiled like a man who'd found a track no rain could wash. The casing went into his vest. He swung back into the saddle and let the horse walk slow toward the road. Cal stepped onto the porch and listened the way old hands listen, chin up, eyes soft, letting the night come to him. The vane on the mill creaked once and settled to a new angle. Somewhere above the flats, the sky wore a deep denim blue and the stars looked tired. He could feel the air lean north, bringing a different smell he hadn't tasted since the bad year. He stood there a long minute with the rifle across his arm and the door at his back. Inside, the girl shifted and sighed like someone dreaming of a place that didn't hurt. Cal's mouth found the words before his mind did. "House is locked," he said again, softer. "And I'm right here." The night kept its peace, but it wasn't the same peace as before. The air had turned. "Don't be scared," Cal said. "This house has a lock." May opened her eyes slow, like light hurt. She tested the words in her mouth before she let them out. "You'll get killed for it." "Maybe," he said. "Tell me what I need to know." She watched his hands first, then his face. When she finally spoke, it was like pulling nails, short, careful, each one costing something. "It's an old mill. Folks call it White Elk, west of Prairie Bend, where the creek bends twice and the road gives up. They brought us there after dark, said there'd be bread and beds." Her mouth twitched a smile that never got born. "They lied." "How many?" 12 the night I counted. Could be more now, comes and goes." "Wagons?" "Canvas over the top. Each one marked with white paint. Big X. Not a cross, an X. You can see it even when the moon's thin." She swallowed. "When we crossed the county line, they'd swap riders. Same wagons, different men, like passing a rope hand to hand." He felt the room lean again, just a hair. "Who runs it?" She pressed 2 fingers to the edge of the blanket, held on there. "A man named Clive Moreland pays the ones I saw. He owns Pioneer Freight. Mill, too, I think. I don't know the papers. I know the boots and the belts." "Names?" Cal asked. "Some call one of 'em Lyle." She glanced at the door as if the name might walk in. I heard Tate and Boz, the one who smiled a lot. Cal heard his own breath, steady and slow, the way a man listens to track under a train car. Girls' names, he said softer. Too many. They kept taking them from place to place. First names only. One of 'em's Ruth. Ruth Ann, 14 maybe. May stared past him then, into a place that wasn't the room. She had a way of braiding her hair like she'd learned it from an older girl. She kept talking about a porch somewhere, watermelon summer. The words found a seam in him and went in. Rosie had a friend named Ruth once. Porch steps, hot slices, juice down the arm, laughter she thought nobody saw. He felt his jaw set, not from anger, so much as the need to keep anything from spilling out. May kept going because stopping was worse. Sometimes at night we'd hear a dog, not close, just enough to make you sit up. There's a back window at the mill with bars. If you stand just right, you can put your hand to the glass and pretend you ain't alone. Her eyes moved to the lamp. The flame threw her shadow long on the wall, thin and crooked like somebody else lived there. Did you see Law? He asked. Once. A badge at the road. He turned his horse. Maybe he didn't see. Maybe he saw and chose not to. The lamp made a little sound, a dry tick. A single mosquito hummed somewhere near the ceiling and lost its nerve. What made you run? They said west, farther than maps folks keep in their heads. Girls don't come back from west. She lifted the blanket just enough to show the bruises a second time, then let it fall. I jumped when the dog slept. The fence tore my dress. Feet got mean. I ran till the ground moved. Cal stood, not quick, and reached for the nail by the door. The little chain of wooden beads hung there, last one carved R by a child's stubborn hand. He took it down and held it in his palm a moment, feeling every nick, then slipped it into his shirt pocket. All right, he said. White Elk Mill, Pioneer Freight, X on the canvas, county line swaps, Clive Moreland. May's lips formed the name like it tasted bad. You can't beat him alone. I don't aim to die trying, Cal said. I aim to do it right. She let her head sink into the quilt. The wall kept its shadow. Cal checked the rifle, turned down the lamp, and listened to the house remember how to rest. He had a direction now, and the night, whatever it meant, would have to follow it. Out here, the moorlands are power. The law shows up when it can. Cal rode into Prairie Bend at first light. A freight wagon clattered by with Pioneer stenciled on the sideboard. Men stepped off the walk without thinking. The sheriff's office held the cool corner of the square. Whit Barnett sat behind a scarred desk, gray in the beard, red in the eyes. He looked Cal over, not unkind. What brings you, Vance? Law, Cal said, and a chance not to waste it. Talk. Old mill west of town folks call White Elk. 12 girls at least, wagons under canvas with a white X. Riders swap at the county line. Money runs through Pioneer Freight. Owners Clive Moreland. Whit's jaw worked once. He glanced at the window where dust hung in a thin beam. His hand found the badge on his vest and pressed it flat, thumb circling the star like he was polishing duty that had gone dull. Out loud, that sounds like a war, he said. I've got 2 cells, 1 deputy, and a town that eats from Moreland's hand. Bring me proof, names, marks, a ledger, a living witness under oath, and I'll stand up straight. Come with smoke and rumor, and you'll lay widows end to end. Cal nodded. You know I wouldn't be here without a reason. I know you kept quiet 12 years, Whit said, and left it there. You want help? Bring me something I can nail to a docket. A man in a tie and rolled sleeves paused at the doorway, eyes flicking from Cal to Whit. Mail's light, he said for the room, then lower. Operators on break. 2 doors down, the telegraph office smelled of hot iron and paper dust. The same man was alone, sleeves higher, ink on his thumb. "Huck Doolin," he said, "I keep clocks and wires." He slid a copy from under a ledger. Tight wire hand, 9:17 p.m., W.E. Mill, wagon inbound, canvas mark X, 2 riders relieved at line. "Dogs?" Cal asked. "Mostly bark," Huck said. "Worst bites the men." Cal folded the paper and tucked it inside his shirt. "Why hand me this?" Huck's mouth went thin. "Man gets tired of watching trains move trouble down the track. You didn't hear it here, but there's a U.S. Marshal out of Cheyenne, Amos Hale. Reads facts like a carpenter reads a level. He listens when the evidence sits still. He don't care for stories." Through the window, Cal saw Whit standing, hand on the sill, shoulders squared. Sun cut a bar across the floorboards. "Cheyenne's a far ride," Cal said. "Farther if you wait," Huck answered. "Bring him something solid, he'll meet you halfway." Cal stepped into the street, copy under his shirt, day warming. He had a name, a route, a mark that wouldn't wash, and a lawman who might stand tall if the ground held. A side door to justice opened, narrow as a chute. He aimed to write it clean. "Keep your belly to the rock, Cal." He said it to himself and eased lower along the rim. Late day burned the ledge a hard copper. Below, the old mill sat mean and square by the dry creek, boards silvered, roof patched with tin that flashed when the sun slipped. A man could hide a lot in a place folks had decided not to see. 2 guards worked the main door, one tall, one thick in the middle. On the porch, a third sat crooked in a chair, boots on the rail, spitting now and then like the ground owed him. Boz Harrow. Cal recognized the shoulders. A fourth paced the perimeter with a gray dog that kept its head low and its tail straight, a working kind of animal. Cal set his cracked scope and glassed slow. He counted windows, nailed boards, the sag in the south corner that might give under weight. He noted a side hatch, half rusted, chained, the links bright where hands had worried them. He checked his belt. 8 in the tube, 6 loose. Not near enough for a shout and rush. Not with men who felt at home doing wrong. He waited. A freight wagon rolled in simple as Sunday. Canvas drooped. White X painted bold so even a sleepy moon could find it. 2 riders trailed, unsmiling. The wagon eased to a side bay where a pair of doors opened inward. Cal couldn't see the bed, but he heard something small and human go quiet, the way a bird does when a hawk slides over. He waited longer. Time settled into the bones. Once, something black-winged slipped through a broken pane and vanished, a soft skitter along rafters. Twice the pacing man stopped, lit a cheroot, and watched the yard with a face that didn't care either way. Near midnight, a pattern showed itself. 3 short knocks under the eaves, knuckle on beam, and the porchman stood, stretched, and traded places with the thick one at the door. 5 minutes later, the gray dog's handler swapped with the tall guard. Same circuit, same timing. 3 knocks again at the top of the hour. Cal caught it, memorized it, felt the click in his head like a round chambering. There was order here, the kind born of long practice. The smell rolling off the flats shifted, and the gray dog lifted its nose. Its ears cupped the dark. It turned and walked the fence a little quicker, pausing twice to test the air. Cal flattened into the stone, cheek on grit, muscles gone to rope. He tasted dirt and old metal and made himself smaller than the shadow he lay in. The dog stared uphill for a count of 10, then dropped its head and went on. Boz said something low. Someone laughed with no humor in it. A shape moved behind the back window. Just a flicker at first, then a hand, small as a sparrow, pressed to the glass. Not waving, not asking, just saying, "I'm here." It held a beat and was gone. Cal's throat worked once, dry. He waited until the pattern turned twice more. He marked the gaps, the blind corner near the water trough, the porch board that squeaked when Boz stood. He watched the dog tire. He watched the men get lazy, and then he backed out the way he'd come, slow as a tide leaving the rocks, leaving no scrape and no sign. A man could die easy trying this alone. He wasn't ready to die, and he wasn't ready to fail for someone else's sake. At the top of the ridge, he slung the rifle, touched the shirt pocket where a small chain of wooden beads lay warm against his skin, and started for the horses. He had what he came for, a way in, a clock to beat, and the certainty that going in loud would fill graves fast. "Don't bring trouble here," Cal said. "You won't like how it leaves." They came after moonset, 2 riders and a 3rd horse with a loose lead for hauling. Lyle McKendry had his bad arm in a sling, hate bright in his good eye. Tate Sutter rode a step behind, thin and careful, like a man who lets the other one talk. They pulled up by the well with the easy nerve of hands who've burned places before. "Old man," Lyle called, voice raw. "You got something belongs to my boss. We'll take the girl and call it even, or we start with your barn." Cal kept to the edge of the doorway where the lamplight made a soft square on the porch boards. Inside, May sat on the floor behind the couch, ankle-strapped, both hands on the wooden drop bar for the door, eyes set. Cal had told her plain, when he said so, drop it and don't lift it for any name on earth. He checked his count the way a carpenter checks a mark. 2 in the pocket wrapped in cloth, 5 loose, 8 in the tube. Not a night for a long argument. "You boys are trespassing," he said. "Say your piece and turn around before you get worse at walking than you already are." Lyle laughed a little and spat sideways. "You think you can keep her? She's freight. Ward don't pay me to ride home empty." "Ward?" Cal said, letting the word fall with no weight. "Not your concern," Tate put in. "Light that lamp brighter, Mr. Vance. Hard to see where to shoot." "Obliged," Cal said, and stepped into the light. He held the rifle low, muzzle kissing the porch rail. He let them fix on him and not the room behind. "You ever notice," he said easy, "how glass and flame don't like horseplay?" "What?" Lyle squinted, tipping his head. Cal shot the porch lamp dead. The yard collapsed into a hard black full of shapes that didn't know themselves. Lyle's horse shied, Tate cussed, metal clinked, a moment of blind men groping in a snake pit. In that beat, Cal moved left, quick and quiet, and brought the rifle butt smart against Lyle's gun hand. The pistol clattered, Lyle lunged, and Cal took him low, twisting the bad shoulder. The scream came up out of the man like steam from a split pipe. "Now," Cal said, and May dropped the bar. The door thumped into its slot. The house went from soft to iron. Tate fired wild toward the sound. Splinters jumped from a post. Cal pushed Lyle through the dark into the porch rail, took 2 fast steps, and kicked Lyle's pistol into the yard. Tate's horse jinked, slammed him into the pump, and he went down on a knee. Cal put a round into the dirt close enough to salt his face with grit. "Next one's meat," Cal said. "You're dead come daylight," Tate hissed. "Maybe," Cal said, "but you won't be here to see it if you reach again." He hauled Lyle by the sling strap, tied him to the rail with a short piece of lead rope, and patted him down. There it was in the inside pocket, a freight chit folded twice, grease-stained. Pioneer Freight in block letters, Dry Willow Depot stamped faint, and a hurried initial at the bottom, CH. "What's CH stand for?" Cal asked. Lyle bared his teeth. "Coffee house." Cal tapped the broken shoulder once, gentle as a hammer. Lyle's breath whistled. "Chief Handler," he gasped. "It's Chief Handler. You happy?" "Not yet." He stepped back, kept Tate at gunpoint while he wrapped Lyle's wrists with a second length of rope and looped it to the porch post. "You'll ride in with me at first light," he said. "You'll enjoy town hospitality." Tate eased to his feet, palms empty, mind working. "You can't hold both of us, Vance." "I don't intend to." Cal shifted the rifle just enough to make his point. Mount up and go tell your paymaster he's sprung a leak. Tell him Whit Barnett's got a cell with his name sniffing around it, and tell him Juniper Flats ain't part of his range. You let me go? Tate's voice had a new respect in it he didn't want. Run on, Cal said. Run smart, don't forget what you saw. Tate backed to his horse, put a boot in the stirrup, and swung clean. He didn't look back. The hoofbeats started small and ran thin down the wash road. Cal turned to Lyle. You sit tight and think on prayers you ain't said. Ward'll burn you out, Lyle breathed. He'll salt your dirt. Maybe, Cal said, but you'll be busy explaining that limp. He stepped inside and lifted the bar. May was where he'd left her, hands white on the wood, jaw tight. You did fine, he said. It's over for the minute. I heard his name, she said. Ward, I told you. You told me, Cal said. He set the rifle in the corner, checked the window once, and folded the chit into his pocket with the wooden beads. We ride at dawn, sheriff first. Will he help? He will if I put this under his nose, Cal said. Paper talks when men won't. He added 2 shells to the tube, lit a fresh lamp, and sat where he could see both the bound man on the porch and the girl on the couch. The room smelled of hot metal and kerosene and something like fear wearing itself out. Cal waited for the night to finish what it had started. By sunup, he'd deliver a gift to Whit Barnett and let the word run ahead of him like dust, straight to the man who thought people came with price tags. They rode at sunup with Lyle tied to the saddle horn and his jaw set mean. Prairie Bend woke slow, but folks found the boardwalk when they saw rope and blood. Whit Barnett unlocked the iron door, took one look at Lyle, and pointed to the back cell. Sit him, Whit said, and tell me you brought more than bad company. Cal set the freight chit on the desk. Grease and dust ground into the fold. He laid Huck's wire copy beside it. White X on the canvas. Swap at the county line. Time stamped clean. Whit's thumb made a slow circle on the badge over his vest. It's weight, not a saddlebag full yet. Then let's add to it, Huck said from the doorway. Sleeves rolled, eyes quick. There's a marshal 2 counties off, Amos Hale. He answers numbers, not stories. Whit gave Huck a look that meant, don't overstep. Then sighed. Fine, call him. By afternoon, a tall man in a plain duster rode in with a single pack horse and a face that hadn't learned how to brag. He tied off, came inside, and took the room like a carpenter sighting a true line. Wide hands, scars across the knuckles. He set his hat careful on the rack and didn't offer a smile he hadn't earned. Hale, he said. Who's Vance? Me. Tell it clean. Cal told it clean. Old mill west of town called White Elk. 12 girls at least. Wagons under canvas, White X. Riders swapped at the line. Pioneer freight on the paper and in the yard. 1 witness living, 1 hand in the cell. Names, Lyle, Tate, Boz. Money points up a rung to Clive Moreland. Hale didn't interrupt. He just pulled off his gloves finger by finger and set them square. When Cal finished, Hale looked at Whit. You got room to hold more? For a day if you bring me paper to back it, Whit said. Without that, this town tips. Hale nodded once. He turned to Cal. Your witness going to stand up where it counts? Cal glanced at the door to the side room where May sat with a cup and a blanket. She shook, but she's got more steel than some men I've known. Then we don't spook her, Hale said. We put law under her feet and keep the shadows behind her. He slid the chit and the wire toward him. This is good. Not enough for the headman, enough to open doors. How many doors? Huck asked. 3, Hale said. White Elk, the depot on Dry Willow, a side shed north of the river I've had my eye on. He tapped the desk. 3rd night from now, midnight. We hit all 3 clean, quiet, and at once. If there's a ledger, we take it. If there's a handler, we sit him. Whit scratched his cheek. Town'll feel that. Good, Hale said. Maybe it remembers what law's for. Rattling from the cell cut the air. Lyle laughed a little to himself, then coughed. You ain't got the spine, he called. Moreland's got paper. He's got friends don't wear tin. Hale stood and walked to the bars. He didn't raise his voice. You get used to thinking men are cattle, he said. Then one day you find out you were the one behind the gate. Silence took a chair between them. Lyle looked away first. Hale turned back to Cal. You bled for this yet? A little. You'll bleed more. Question is whether it counts. He put the gloves back on. Between now and night 3, you bring me something that can't be argued with. A mark, a ledger page, a man willing to name names in daylight. Cal nodded once. You'll have it. Don't be a hero, Hale said. Be exact. Outside, the afternoon leaned long across the square. Cal stepped onto the walk, felt the weight of the beads against his chest, and knew the next cut would come out of his own hide if he wasn't careful. Night 3, he said. Night 3, Huck echoed, already turning toward the wire. They went in on the second night, not the third, because plans look good on paper and wolves don't read. Red Fox led the way, hands low, eyes higher. He found a dry culvert choked with tumble and showed Cal the crawl where a boy could slip but a proud man might stick. Cal went anyway. The mill breathed a slow rot. Floor dust held tracks like a ledger no one meant to keep. Red mouthed one word, dog, and was already gone to deal with it. A soft click, a palm to a muzzle, a loop of rawhide. The gray lay quiet, eyes blinking like a tired child. Cal worked the side bay. Canvas hung from pegs, each sheet brushed with a thick white X you could see in your sleep. He peeled one corner, the paint flaked under his thumb. On a nail he found a shipping tag, dry willow faint, a pencil scrawl. CH, he tucked it. Voices moved in the main room. Men changed out, 3 knocks under the eave, just like the ridge had taught him. He took the dark along the wall and felt with his boots for loose boards. A narrow door gave to a clerk's nook, beer glass ring on the desk. Lamp soot, a slim book held shut with twine. He cut the twine with a thumbnail and turned pages with a gambler's care. Waybills, initials, night runs. He didn't have time to copy neat. He slid off his belt, spit on the back, and scratched a row of names with the point of attack. Lyle, Tate, Boz, Sutter, Dry Willow, White Elk, X, numbers 2, dates. His hand cramped. He kept at it. Footsteps. He killed the lamp flame with a lick of fingers and felt heat bite. A shadow filled the doorway. Big man, slow weight. Boz Harrow. The smell of chew and cheap soap. Boz reached past Cal for the book, not seeing him yet, and Cal stepped in tight, forearm across the windpipe. Boz swung a hook blind. The nail head on his fist split Cal's shoulder open like a bad seam. Pain flared white. Cal drove a knee to the man's thigh and took him into the desk. Wood cried. The book fell. Boz clawed for a knife. Cal found his wrist and banged it twice against the drawer pull. Steel thunked to the floor. Red's hand came in from nowhere, 2 fingers to a nerve behind the ear. Boz went slack and slid down the wall. Time, Red breathed. Cal clenched his teeth, pressed palm to the cut, and stuffed the ledger under his shirt. He set the dented harmonica on the desk, thought better, pried off the bent cover plate with his knife, and wedged that thin metal into a split in the window frame by the barred pane. He tested a single note low through what was left. It shivered like a coiled quail call. If they hear that, Red asked, they'll know it's not the men, Cal said. When it comes, follow. In the yard, a rider cursed the dog, found it drowsy, and blamed the night. Red slipped ahead and scattered 2 small bolts into the dust to catch a boot and buy a breath. Cal eased the clerk's door shut, left it a hair off square so the next man would think he'd done it, and they slid back to the culvert with the kind of care you save for carrying hot coffee in a gale. Halfway through, the cut let go and warm ran down Cal's ribs. He swallowed bile. Red's palm found his elbow and steadied him without talk. Outside, the flats held their dark like a favor. At the horses, Cal wrapped the shoulder with his neckerchief and a strip from his shirt, tugged it tight until sparks danced. He could taste blood in the back of his mouth and iron in his teeth. "You paid," Red said. "Cheap if it buys what we need." Cal felt the ledger under his shirt, the tag in his pocket, the belt biting his hip with names scratched raw. He lifted the harmonica body, light now without its plate, and slipped it away. "Night 3, he said, voice rough. "We come back with the badge." "And the note," Red said. Cal nodded. "One clean note, then we don't miss." "Time for the badge to speak," Hale said. They met in Whit Barnett's office, where the map of the county was thumb-scarred and honest. Cal stood with his shoulder wrapped tight, Red Fox at his elbow. Lyle snored a bitter snore in the back cell. Whit had 2 deputies on hand, Creedy, thick through the chest, and Mullins, young but steady. Huck Doolan came in last, ink on his thumb, and a pocket watch ticking like it meant the difference. Hale laid out the pieces without drama. 3 doors, he said. White Elk, Dry Willow Depot, North River Shed. We hit at midnight. Clean, quiet, no one shoots to brag. He set the waybill scrap, the bent shipping tag, and Cal's belt with the scratched names on the desk. He didn't look at Cal's bandage. He didn't need to. Whit turned the belt over, found Lyle, Tate, Boz cut in with a tack point. "Paper enough to knock and enter," he said. "Not enough to hang a headman." "We're not stringing a headman tonight," Hale said. "We're cutting arteries." "Tate Sutter's missing," Creedy put in. "Ain't at his bunk, ain't at the saloon. Might be out carrying word." "Then we plan like the other side's listening," Hale said. "Need to know. No talk on porches. No coffee pot wisdom." Huck lifted the lid on the wire key. "I can send a little thunder. Make Moreland think a load jumps early for Dry Willow. If he believes it, he'll thin White Elk to cover the depot." "Do it," Hale said. "Keep it plain. Men like him don't believe poetry." Widow Alma pushed through with a crate of cups and a pot that smelled like mercy. "Beds are made at my place," she said. "Dr. Lucy's warming broth and laying out clean rags. You bring me children, I'll see 'em feel human." Lucy arrived on her heels and looked Cal's bandage over without asking for permission. "You'll keep," she said. "Not for long if you show off." "I don't show off," Cal said. "That's the only reason you're standin'," she answered and snugged the knot. Hale drew lines with a carpenter's pencil on the map. "Me, Vance, and Mullins take White Elk. Whit and Creedy sit the depot. Red, you work the river shed. Cut the wheels if you have to, light signal if they spook." He pressed the pencil flat. "Huck, you send the decoy now and another at 11. If the wire goes dark, we go anyway." Whit looked at the barred window toward the square. "Town's gonna feel this." "It ought to," Hale said. "Law that never moves goes lame." Nobody cheered. That wasn't the kind of room it was. Huck went to the key and rattled out the lie that might buy the truth. Alma said, "Steps," and they all filed to her boarding house porch because she asked them to. She took one hand, Lucy took another, and the line ran through lawman and cowhand and tracker like they were kin for a minute. No one said prayer out loud. The quiet did the talking. Hale put his hat on, brim low, like a man stepping into weather he'd already measured. "Midnight," he said. "We're ghosts until we aren't. When we aren't, be exact." Creedy checked the latches on the shotgun. Mullins swallowed once and nodded. Red Fox pulled a small file from his pocket and slid it away again, the kind of tool that opens chains without asking. Huck leaned from the telegraph door. "Message sent," he said. "Dry Willow'll be looking the wrong way come 11." "Good," Wit said. Let's help 'em keep looking. They saddled with the sun, dropping to a red coin at the rim of the flats. One line of riders angled north, another west. Cal took the middle trail with Hale, the beads warm against his chest like a little heartbeat. He didn't say, "Not today." He didn't have to. The law had taken the words out of his mouth and put them under its star. Midnight put a skin on the mill. Hale touched Mullins's sleeve and counted under his breath. 3 knocks whispered under the eave. Shift change. Now, he said. Red Fox ghosted left for the dog. A soft scrape, a palm to a muzzle, a loop drawn tight. The gray sank to its belly like it had remembered better days. Hale slipped the yard gate chain through a hasp and locked it with a quiet click. "No riders in," he murmured. "No riders out." Cal moved to the barred window where he'd wedged the harmonica plate. He breathed once to steady his shoulder, put the mouthpiece to the slit, and laid down one low note, clean and thin as wire. Nothing, then another. Out of the dark came a tiny answer. The hush of feet on wood. A whisper of cloth. A small palm lifted into the square of glass. Then a second, then more. Pale ovals finding the cold. Not waving, just present. Mullins swallowed hard and looked away to keep his shape. Hale took the main door. Pick, lift, push. The latch gave with a plate metal sigh. "Easy," he said, and they went in with shoulders turned, boots soft. Inside, the place smelled of damp meal and old fear. Cal kept his muzzle low, swept corners, listened for breath that meant harm. "Left," Red breathed. "Stairs." From the office, Boz Harrow came up sudden, shirt dark at the collar, a sawed-off tucked high. He saw the hands at the window, saw Cal, and grinned a private grin. "You want 'em?" He grabbed for the nearest shape, May, dragging her from a stack of sacks where Lucy had set her to rest earlier when they staged supplies. Boz jammed iron at her ribs and backed to the wall. "Trade," he said. "Big heart for little ones." Cal stepped forward and set his rifle on the floorboards, slow as laying a baby down. He raised empty hands, shoulder high. "Me," he said. "Let her loose." "Don't," May hissed. "Be exact," Hale said without looking at Cal. Boz licked his lip, eyes bright with the kind of courage men get from other people's pain. "Gun first, then the girl." Boots scraped behind the side door. The panel swung, and Whit Barnett stepped in from the depot team, coat open, barrel steady. The decoy had thinned his post early. He'd come to tip the scale. Boz saw the badge and swung the sawed-off toward it. Whit shot faster than a man his age ought to, took Boz in the wrist. Wood and iron bounced. Boz howled, clutching a hand that didn't work no more. May tore free. Mullins kicked the gun away and pinned Boz with a knee like he meant it. Hale's voice cut flat. "Doors, chains, count heads." Red moved through the bunk room calling softly, "Come on, little sisters." Girls slid from shadows, some with blankets, some barefoot. Hale worked keys on a belt and bars gave. The small palms that had pressed the glass now gripped air and wrists and sleeves. "1," Mullins counted, voice steadying itself by the numbers. 2, 3. They found 14, hungry, shocky, breathing. Cal went to the barred window and cracked the frame wider. "Ruth Ann?" he asked, quiet as asking the time. A girl with a rag of ribbon in her hair stepped forward, chin set like a ranch hand's. "Here," she said, not the Ruth from Cal's porch years ago, another child with the same brave name. She wore a short string of wooden beads at her throat. Odd little thing with the last piece carved like an R. The stroke on the letter had been cut by a hand that knew one tool and used it always the same. Cal touched the bead with 2 fingers. It wasn't his Rosie's, it was kin to it. "You all right?" he asked. "I will be," she said, tough as wire. Hale herded them out in pairs, heads low. Red took the dog's rope and led the gray ahead, easy. Whit pressed a bandage to Boz and kept him breathing because that was still the job. May leaned on Cal, face white but eyes clear. "I told you," she said, voice no louder than a sleeve on wood. "They own all of us." "Not tonight," Cal said. Outside, night held still like it had been waiting to exhale. They moved as one body toward the gate, the chain open now under Hale's hand. No shots chased them, no riders came. The mill stood behind them, emptied of what it had stolen, and the low note Cal had blown seemed to hang in the rafters, the kind of sound you remember after it's gone. By dawn, the mill was a shell, and the town was awake. Widow Alma's dining room filled with small shoulders and tin spoons. Dr. Lucy moved cot to cot, touching a brow, checking a breath, getting names in a ledger that would matter later. Broth steamed. Boots stayed quiet. Hale and Whit worked the back table. Cal set down what he'd taken. The tag stamped Dry Willow. The belt scored with names. The clerk book Lucy dried by the stove. Huck Doolin spread a county map and laid wire copies like fence slats across it. 3 stations, Huck said. Here, White Elk. Here, a North River shed nobody taxes because nobody admits it exists. And here, Dry Willow Depot. Wagons swap riders at the line so no one bunch carries the sin too far. Whit tapped the map with a dull pencil. "This is arteries," he said. "Cut 1 and they limp," Hale answered. "Cut 2 and they crawl. Cut 3 and a head shows itself." Boz Harrow sat on a chair with one wrist bandaged and the other cuffed to a bedpost. He watched the room with a dog's yellow patience. Lyle snored in Whit's cell across the square, mean even in sleep. Tate Sutter stayed gone. "Moreland," Cal asked, "didn't show at the mill," Hale said. "Doesn't have to. He buys men who ring the bell for him. Odds are he keeps his papers at Dry Willow. He'll try to make it look like contracts and apprenticeship. He'll say the signatures are tidy." "Then we make 'em ugly," Whit said, and rubbed the badge with his thumb. Ruth Ann ate slow beside the stove, beads at her throat. Cal knelt, gentle. "That letter," he said. "Who gave you the R?" She thumbed it once. "A girl at a stop I don't know the name of. She said her pa carved the same. Said it kept your neck warm when you were scared." Ruth lifted her chin. "She left before sunup." Alma turned from the sink, towel in her hands, eyes gone far. "Storm night, 12 years back," she said. "Livery was full of wet saddles. A little thing with brown hair slept on my bench. Wore beads cut like that last one an R. Driver with a scar asked the road to Dry Willow before dawn. By breakfast the girl was gone and so was the wagon." The room breathed and let it sit. Cal held his pocket where his own R lay, small and warm against the shirt. He didn't say Rosie. He didn't have to. Huck tapped the wire key with 2 fingers. "I can watch Dry Willow traffic," he said. "If Moreland shifts paper, it rattles here first." "Do," Hale said. "And send a quiet line to the judge 2 counties over. We'll need teeth, not speeches." Rain found the street, a slow patter that made the dust think twice. Through the window the town looked washed and honest for a minute. Hale stood, squared his hat. "We hit the depot next," he said. "Bring the clerk book, bring the tag. Bring your witness if she can stand with a wall at her back." Cal rose. The cut in his shoulder tugged. He felt the beads and the weight of a promise he hadn't spoken in years. "Dry Willow," he said. "Dry Willow," Hale echoed, "with paper and with badge. County lines don't save the guilty." Hale said it flat, and they rode before daylight, splitting clean at the river bridge. Whit and Creedy angled south to the depot. Red Fox slid off alone to find a back way through the cottonwoods. Cal kept to the main road with Huck's latest wires in his vest and the clerk book under his coat. Dr. Lucy stayed with Alma and the girls, sleeves rolled, jaw set. You could trust a town when those 2 took a room. Dry Willow wasn't much, One long platform, a freight shed, a lunch counter that chalked its specials on a slate. The rail gave a lazy shine. Huck's pocket watch ticked like a soft hammer. "He'll move paper at noon," Huck said. "Wire says load at 12:15 if the road's clear." Whit took the office first, badge quiet. Creedy checked the ledger stack and the ticket drawer. "No headman yet," Whit murmured. "Then we thin the brush," Hale answered. They caught Tate Sutter behind the freight scale with a sandwich and a look that said he'd been waiting to be found. Red came in from the alley and took his elbow before he could reach the iron on his hip. Hale folded him over a crate and patted him down, patient as a tailor. White dust puffed when Tate hit. "Talk," Hale said. Tate tried a grin and found it cost too much. "You got what you need already." "Maybe," Hale said. "Say it anyway." Tate watched Cal like a man checks a weather vane. "Loads at 12:15, east door, 2 handlers, 1 clerk. Paper says apprentice, but don't mean it." "Your initials," Whit said, tapping the crate. "CH stands for chief handler." Tate nodded once. "That's the one who counts and don't get counted." Cal lifted a stained card from Tate's vest, marks in a neat hand, letters down one side, slashes across. R appeared too often. "What's R by a girl?" Cal asked. "Ready," Tate said, not proud. "Means she don't fight the rope." "Some man's idea, not mine." A long moment held. No one filled it. Cal stepped outside and sat on the platform steps, shoulder pulling. The river smell came up thin. Across the way, the lunch slate wore 3 chalk lines: stew, cornbread, and under both, rose hip tea, in big letters the color of a faded dress. He read it twice. Might be nothing, might be a ghost putting a hand on his coat. Huck came out and sat beside him, boots set square. "Wires steady," he said. "When this bell rings, he's ours." "Then we do it with both hands," Cal said. Whit put Tate in a side room and shut the door with care, not anger. Red Fox cut a narrow path behind the shed and found where wagon wheels had kissed the same rut all week. He filed a link on the east door chain and slipped the file away. "When he closes it," Red said, "it won't hold." They took their places, Hale by the freight office, Whit at the dock corner, Cal where he could see both the door and the chalkboard. Huck stood with the wire like a man at a well, drawing what the day would give. The depot bell struck noon, 3 hard notes that bounced off the tin roof and were gone. A carriage rolled from the street, close-trimmed team, harness polished. Clive Moreland stepped down in a good coat with a leather folio under his arm and a face that hadn't worked for anything in a while. He checked the sun, checked the watch, and smiled like a bank. Hale touched his hat brim a fraction. "Mr. Moreland," he said, "law needs a word." Hale met Moreland at the platform edge like a man measuring lumber. "Clive Moreland," he said, calm as a level, "by authority of the United States, you'll hand me that folio and stand where the badge can see you." Moreland smiled with his eyes, not his mouth. "You've confused charity with crime, Marshal." He slid out papers neat as a preacher's notes. "Apprenticeship, signatures tidy, seals clean, parents gave consent or the guardians did. We teach skills. We place the wayward." Hale took the folio without looking impressed. Whit set his boot on a crate and braced his bad shoulder with his good hand. Huck drifted to the light, watch chain in his fingers, eyes on the dates like they were rail times. "This one," Huck said, tapping a page, his voice dry. "Dated on a Sunday. Clerk's office shut tight that day. I sent the outage notice myself when the bell tower blew a slate. No filings. And this seal?" He scratched at the ink. "New stamp didn't come in till spring. Your winter paper wears a spring coat." Moreland's smile went thin. "Paper moves slow in counties like this." "Not that slow," Whit said, "and not backwards." A bay team clinked harness at the far door. The east chain tried to catch, and didn't. A filed link let go the way Red Fox said it would. A canvas-topped wagon shouldered through the gap like a bull wheel-biting wood. The driver hunched low, hat jammed. Boz Harrow, hauled down from Alma's at dawn under guard to point names, had slipped a cuff and found a seat. He drove mean, aiming to split the law like kindling. "Heads!" Whit barked, stepping to block the swing. Boz racked a scattergun from the bench and snapped it up. Whit fired first, clean, and took Boz in the forearm. The blast went high, tore chalk from the lunch slate, and peppered Whit's shoulder with splinters. He staggered, stayed up. "I'm all right," he said through his teeth. "Finish it." Cal didn't think about it. He hit the fourboard at a run, caught the side iron, and swung up as the team lunged. Boz tried to club him with the shotgun stock. Cal got inside the arc, jammed a boot against the brake, and yanked the lines hard left. The wagon bucked, skidded, and rolled into a stack of hay bales. A bank of low cloud sat on the rim like a tarp of pewter. The bales took the weight and held. No spark caught. Boz spilled to the cinders, breath gone. Cal slid off the wreck with his shoulder singing and put a heel on the shotgun. Hale didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Clive Moreland," he said, "you're under arrest for unlawful transport, false instruments, and conspiracy to traffic in persons over county lines. You'll come quiet. If you don't, you'll come anyway." Moreland set his jaw like a man posing for a photograph and offered his wrists with a courtly tilt that fooled nobody. "You'll find my counsel quick on the draw," he said. "You'll find the docket quicker," Hale answered, snapping the irons. Red brought a pry and a punch from the freight bench. He knelt at the depot safe while Huck read off numbers from a grubby scrap he'd lifted off the clerk's stand. Third turn stuck, then gave. The door swung with a cough of old oil. Inside were folios, coin rolls, a tally book with neat slashes, and a small canvas bag. Red poured it slow into Cal's palm. Short strings of wooden beads fell like dry seed. One bore an R, cut with the same stubborn hand that had taught a child once to carve letters into soft wood. Cal turned it with a thumb. Not Rosie's chain? Kin to it. A piece from the same habit of making, the same shop of sorrow. The room narrowed to the size of a breath. He put the R back in the bag and tied it shut. Hale lifted the tally book, flipped, stopped. "Names," he said. "Codes to look like freight, and here's your apprentice wages, paid to handlers, not to hands." Moreland tried for dignity and missed. "You win a skirmish," he said. "You'll lose the county." Whit wiped his shoulder and let the blood speck his vest. "County's been losing since you rolled the first X through," he said. "Today it remembers." Hale handed the folios to Huck. "Wire the judge and the marshal's office," he said. "Tell him we've got papers and a pulse on the headman." He turned to the street where people had started to edge out of doorways. "Back inside," he called, not unkind. "Law's workin'." They walked Moreland to the wagon with irons bright against good cloth. Cal stood a moment by the busted hay, listening to his shoulder and the old beat inside his shirt. He didn't say the name that wanted saying. He set the little canvas bag with the bead chains in Hale's saddlebag and closed the flap. "Justice starts here," Hale said. "It better keep going," Cal answered. "It will," Hale said, "because we're not done. Folks say the world needs heroes. Most days it just needs people who don't turn away." By afternoon, the courthouse rooms were full of paper that finally meant something. Huck's wires stacked like fence slats. Whit's signature sat under Hale's, steady as a post. Moreland waited behind iron with his coat brushed and his pride dinged. He tried a smile on Hale. "You've made a mistake." Hale didn't answer him. He told the clerk, "Chain of custody stays clean," and moved on. Creedy logged the tally book. Mullins sealed the folios. Red Fox stood quiet by the door, the kind of still that keeps rooms honest. Across the square, Widow Alma's tables groaned with bowls and bread. Dr. Lucy ran a small kingdom of warm water and plain talk. She learned the girls' names first and their bruises later. Ruth Ann finished a second bowl of broth, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand like a ranch kid, then remembered and reached for a napkin. "Thank you, ma'am," she said. The bead string at her throat caught the light, the last piece carved like an R. Cal sat with May near the kitchen doorway. She held the cup like it might walk off if she didn't. "You kept your word," she said. "I tried to," he answered. Hale came in, hat in his hand, and laid a small thing on the table. A single wooden bead, lettered the same stubborn way as the ones in the depot safe. "This one isn't tagged," he said. "Clerk says it fell loose from a string. Won't be missed from the evidence." Cal closed his fingers around it. It was nothing, and it was heavy. The day thinned to a good copper as he rode home. Juniper Flats lay the way it always had. House square to the yard, pump honest, a sliver of moon waiting its turn. He watered the gelding, checked the latch, and stepped onto the porch where his life could hear itself think. On the jamb a short chain hung where it always did. Letters a child had gouged with a dull knife. R, the last cut deeper than the rest. He took the new bead from his pocket, worked a bit of rawhide through it, and tied it beside the old one. The two knocked together once, a quiet click like coins in a careful hand. He set the dented harmonica to his mouth and breathed one low note. It wasn't pretty. It didn't have to be. The sound went out and seemed to come back, small and complete. The mill down valley creaked once and went still. Somewhere a nightbird tried a line and thought better of it. Cal leaned on the post and watched the sky wear out its color. He didn't pray for answers. He asked for one decent day to stack on this one and maybe a second after that. Somewhere ahead lay a courtroom and winter roads and names on paper that needed the right kind of weight. Somewhere behind lay a porch step and watermelon and a girl who laughed with her mouth full. He could carry both without dropping either. He touched the beads with 2 fingers, the old and the new, sitting tight together. "Not today," he said, and for once the words didn't sound like a fight. They sounded like a promise. Out here on the high plains, the sun always sets, but it never truly disappears. Folks like Cal Vance learn that scars might stay, but so does the kindness we plant along the trail. Sometimes it's just a ribbon in the wind or a door left open for a lost soul to find their way home. Sometimes it's the simple act of not looking away when someone begs for help. Maybe that's what the West is deep down. Not just dust and old regrets, but a place where hearts get a second chance and hope hangs on, stubborn as wild sage. If this story brought you a memory or stirred something quiet inside, I'd be honored to hear from you. Tell me, who was the one that left a light burning in your darkest hour? Or maybe you've done the same for someone else. Feel free to share your thoughts, or just a simple "I'm here." Sometimes that's all it takes to remind another wanderer they're not alone. And if you'd like more tales of grit and grace beneath these wide western skies, you know where to find us next time. Until then, may your road be soft, your burdens light, and your fire always burning.